This is absolutely Essendon, the Bomber fan channel that is the YouTube version of your gossipy neighbour Jan. Pre-season is all but over for the Dons. Practice games are done. We're going to dive in with some analysis, and we're going to ask the question, are the Bomber faithful wacko about Kako, or are they excited about Edwards?
I thought you were going to go a caddy one, but you went Edwards. That's interesting.
Well, yeah,
I thought with caddy.
I thought I'd drag
Are we
him
Maddie
in.
about caddy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't
What's
know.
a caddy one? God damn, we'd never get a job on a current affair.
No, we wouldn't.
All right, stick around. Let's go. Thank you for pressing play. This is your Essendon therapy session, as people like to refer to us when they run into us on the streets. Grabbing a coffee.
A quick hello to Adam, who I met down at Southern Cross Station during the week. Was it this week or last week? Last week, I think.
Right. Okay.
And Adam came up and said hello, which we always love. It's always great to be assaulted in the middle of the street by strangers. But no, he was a lovely guy, and he said that he really appreciated the show because it was exactly the therapy he needed as an Essendon supporter to get him through the season. And so for that, we thank you, Adam, and for anyone else who does tune in. And guys, we noticed that a small percentage of our viewers actually subscribe.
Yeah, the rest just say, you know what? Screw you guys.
Stuff them.
Screw you.
Earn my subscription.
That's right.
You dirty pigs.
What's in it for me?
So if you wouldn't mind, just whilst we're talking about it, press the little button where the, what is it, like a bell button or something? And
There's something
subscribe.
there.
Just do it.
Yeah.
If you do that for us, it means exciting things will happen in our world.
That's right.
Whilst we're delivering a lot of excitement for you. So
yes, if you could, that would be much appreciated.
What's happening, Smoking Joe?
Well, I mean, look, let's just quickly touch on our last episode because it was an interesting episode for us. There was a couple of comments that it was a bit clickbaity.
Really?
Well, it was.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
What did we say? Essendon will win the 2025
we didn't. We weren't definitive, but we were saying.
I think we got definitive somewhere in the body.
By the end, we'd convinced ourselves.
Yeah.
But we tried to create a path, create a way that the Dons could get to the promised land. Not in 5 years, not an 8-year plan, but this year. And we put an argument together. and We had lots of great comments. Yes, quite a few said we're on the Persian rugs, but quite a few said, yeah, you're
Stephen Dank junk.
You're right. Especially there was because we talked about the style of play and how that needed to change, and let's come back to these practice games very soon. But there was one comment in particular from he called it the chip and choke style of play.
Okay, yeah.
I think it was Tim. Yeah. Tim. I'm not sure, but thank you, Tim.
Nailed it.
We're going to run with that.
That enters the AFL vernacular, doesn't it?
Does.
The chip and choke.
It does.
Brad Scott's chip and choke plan.
All rights reserved.
I think we should change our name to Absolutely Nostradamus.
Really?
Because that last video which we put out where we predicted that Essendon would win, well, we didn't predict, we just said how we could win the 2025 premiership. A lot of the particularly in reference to some of the subtleties of the game plan.
Yeah.
For any of those people who watched our terrific win in the practice match against Geelong, you would have seen most of what we said. So, Brad, thanks for watching.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking notes. We appreciate it as always.
Yes. So far, so good. So, practice games, when you lose, they don't mean much, but when you win...
What's that saying? Success has many fathers?
Failure is an orphan. Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
You're right. So, we've had two practice games. The one against the Dogs is distant history.
I think technically that's a match simulation.
Why was it?
It's a match simulation.
I don't know if it was that. Or
It is. I mean, just...
because the quarters were different.
Different
all right,
things,
okay.
different.
Okay, and it was high rotation.
All of
and
that.
And the conditions weren't even great.
They were not good.
It was hard to sort of draw too much from that.
Right.
Even though there were some positive signs, and we had one young gentleman by the name of Edwards who...
he was fantastic in that Bulldogs simulation.
Quite the revelation. Where did he come from?
And it got him the big gig in the end, didn't it?
Ahead of Kane Baldwin.
Yeah, I mean, our thoughts go out to the Baldwin family at this difficult time.
Yes.
And particularly to Kane, who will no longer be playing for the Essendon Bombers.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Don't give up, Kane. Edwards himself is a 25-year-old, or I think he's turning 25 shortly, who spent many years, plying his trade in the waffle for Swan Districts, and he now finds himself on an AFL list at the greatest football club in the world. So hang in there, Kane. I'm sure good things will come your way.
Yes.
But, like we say, thank you for your service.
Yes, indeed. All the best. So... young Mr. Edwards, do you want to touch on anything more there, or we'll come back to him? No? Okay. All right.
Look, other than to say, I think it was a really smart call by the club in the end. We've got a pretty decent lineup of larger defenders, and we saw that on show against the Cats, particularly with Zach Reid and Lewis Hayes.
Yes,
both doing pretty well.
They were.
So I think finding another forward is always a smart move, particularly with the loss of Jakey. So it's a good, I think, to have...
Jake who?
Jakey. We don't say his last name anymore.
Yes, we don't.
Who apparently isn't playing for the GWS because he's had a migraine, which is a bit of a concern. So hopefully Jake's okay.
Yes. So then let's get stuck into the game, because it was against Geelong, who has been our nemesis for the last few years, our bogey team. They always throw us around like rag dolls. Now, yes. How hard did they go? How hard do you think they went in last night's game? 60%? 80%?
Look, look, you can't really say for sure unless you're out there. I tend to think players in the heat of the moment just instinctively do what they have to do. So I think they were going for it, and certainly in the second quarter, they looked like they were. They came back pretty hard at the Bombers, and I think turned a 15-point deficit into a 4-point lead or something of that nature.
Did. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And normally, from that point onwards, it's all over red.
Well, against the Cats it is.
Against the Cats. It really is. So I was fascinated to sort of see what would happen in that second half. But then the game in that third quarter got a bit scrappy. The guys had to get down and dirty, and they did, which was a very positive sign. All round, I mean, even with the many rotations and player movements, just the attitude seemed to be pretty good from where I was sitting, and the pressure at the ball.
So I think a commentator, whoever it was, and we'll talk about Jack Riewoldt if we can a little later.
Really?
I really want to talk about Jack Riewoldt because I was about to turn the TV off. But anyway, not everyone's as gifted behind a microphone as some people.
Sure,
so Jack's got a little to learn, but just I think the commentators were saying, how serious is Geelong taking it? And one of the guys said, look, I don't think it's about how serious they're taking it. It's looking at some really obvious flaws in getting their numbers back behind the ball. So that's a Geelong problem, but we absolutely exploited it, I thought we did very well. So serious or otherwise, we exposed some deficiencies in the Geelong game plan, and that's good on you, Brad.
Yeah.
Have that fight at Sunday dinner with your brother.
Indeed, you can. Let's talk about the way that we entered that forward 50, the way we moved the ball around, which was a big part of our discussion last week, as we've already mentioned. And I know it's early days. It's just a practice match, but hey, you need to throw us a bone.
That's just a cliche, right? It's just a practice match. It's not. There's a lot to be gained from these games,
right?
And I think to say it's just a practice match, I don't agree. I think it's more than that. I think it's an absolute barometer of where our footy club is.
Okay.
Can I use that? Is that more cliche?
Sure, it is. Yeah,
I thought it might have been.
The cliche meter's gone into the red.
Yeah.
But no, in summary though, the way we're moving the ball around, it was just far more creative than usual. So especially the way we're getting it into that forward 50. Right. And we kicked very straight as well.
17 goals too.
That's right.
Unheard of for the Essendon Football Club.
It is. Certainly of recent times.
Right. So, I mean, what do you put it down to?
Well, it was the way that that ball was delivered into that forward 50 because, we were winning the clearances out of the middle very early on.
Certainly in the beginning,
But we had good stats for that last year. That kind of,
True.
That wasn't really the issue. The issue was always just sending the ball into a crowded horde and hoping for the best and then the ball just being spat out just as quickly. that wasn't happening.
It certainly seemed to me that we were targeting players at about the 35-metre mark out from goal.
Yeah.
There was no, I mean, they say, lower the eyes.
Yeah.
But often when you lower the eyes, you're hitting guys coming up to the 50-metre arc.
Yes.
And I really sort of felt that a lot of our goals were either, balls that were marked or in play at around that 35-metre point out from the goals and no more than a 45-degree angle. So either right out in the middle or at most out to 45.
Yeah.
No shots. I can't remember a shot taken from the boundary line. There may well have been, but certainly I can't really think there was more than one or two.
Yeah.
Think back to last year. And how many times was Peter Wright or Kyle Langford pinned up against the boundary line fence, 50 metres out from goals, trying for the 1 in 50 shots. So it was really impressive the way we were able to get the ball forward and convert effectively.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so shall we now look at some individual players, because there was certainly a bit of excitement around a few of them.
Yeah.
Shall we start with our midfield, the like of Sartis and Hobbs?
Well, yeah, I think the game started with Merritt and Caldwell in the centre.
Yes.
And they set the tone. I thought both were fantastic. I think Caldwell only played the quarter.
He only did a quarter. Yeah.
But for that quarter, he looked great.
I think he got 9 touches.
But he's coming back from an interrupted pre-season, so give him a bit of time on the bench. And Merritt was fantastic in that first quarter, as usual.
Yeah.
His kicking was a little bit off at parts, but it's early, right?
Yeah.
But
just always...
But the two young guys, I think, really is where the focus is. Not to exclude Sam Durham from that equation as well, but the two you mentioned were fantastic.
Yeah, indeed. And, execution maybe, at times.
Disposal.
Lacking, but in general, though, you got to love the direction that they're heading. You got to love it. That we really seem to have some...
So clean.
Some solid depth.
Elijah Sartis, clean hands. That people sort of wonder what makes these guys better than your average Sunday footballer. It's that.
Yeah.
It's being out that ball. There's no sense to its bouncing. It can go in any direction, and any guy that can grab that cleanly, particularly out of the middle, is worth his weight in gold.
Indeed. And Hobbs is a bull, which I love.
Yeah.
Yes, he missed that set shot. I just think that was something between
his
the
kicking
ears.
was off, but it's not normally like that. I think he had a bad night, but he was kicking the ball pretty badly most of the game. But he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I thought so too. So let's talk about one S. Draper, because he's been in the news. There's talk of a contract. There was talk of the Crows' interest. There's talk of 6 years. Gosh, that seems like a long time.
How old is he now? Is he 24 now? 20?
I think, is he 24, 25?
Yeah.
But I will say this. He's looking fit.
He looked great.
The big fella's looking fit.
He's trimmed down, hasn't he?
Which is great.
Yeah, look, I think we've always known there's a lot of X factor around Sammy, but I thought his ruck craft, particularly in that first quarter, was very, very good. And then the fact that he can go forward and create havoc in the forward line. Yeah. I think he's a weapon for us, and it was one of the commentators, again, I'm not sure which one, but...
You're going to slam them?
No, they actually... they said that... It might have been David King, actually, that said he felt that Sam Draper was the most important player in the Essendon team.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, okay.
You're famously not a fan, but...
I mean, he has... Yes, I agree. He has the ability to move the needle, but what's been lacking has been consistency, has it not? And so
he's had some injury issues, so that doesn't help.
Yeah, sure, but also just the way sometimes he just takes on a little bit too much. We've said it before.
So that comes with maturity, and I think he's now played enough football to sort of put aside the need to try and kick goal of the year every 3 minutes.
Yeah.
He's definitely the fittest I think I've ever seen him.
Yeah.
And he's a fantastic. In the centre, his ability to win the ball. I think he had 5 clearances on his own. In that first quarter.
Yeah.
So
he did.
And with Brian sort of developing in the background, I'm really excited about that combination.
Yeah, indeed. And so, by the way, I mean, people are saying that he pinched Kako, and we'll get on to Kako shortly, his fifth goal. But I reckon that was going to hit the post anyway.
Could've.
So, and not that it really matters anyway.
The game was over at that point. He could have just let it go.
Because, boy, has Kako made an entrance.
Yes, well, he was impressive in the first simulation game. He did a couple of really nice things. His game was great. But look, let's be realistic. He's not going to do that every week as an 18-year-old. He had a great first game, albeit a practice match. But he's not going to be kicking 4 goals every time he goes out to play for the Bombers. That's elite. So let's just not put too much pressure on him. I'm saying.
I would totally agree.
Not to put a dampener on it, he was great, but that he might come out of the Gold Coast game with 0 goals. So let's see how that plays out. But the signs are most certainly there.
Oh, mate, I reckon. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but he is looking a shoe in for the Iraqi team of the century.
Well, I was thinking about that overnight, thinking, well, can we squeeze Saad Al Hawley into that?
You can't bundle anyone with Middle Eastern heritage into the the Iraqi team.
So we look forward to seeing him come into the side as well.
Yes, very much so, very much so.
But definitely at this stage, Kako is the star.
He's just
participant in the Iraqi
lively,
team.
And without drilling down too much, but that one incident where Draper climbed over 3 Geelong players, got his fist to the ball, Crumb, Kako just knew where to be.
Yep, and took it cleanly too.
Pounced.
Yeah.
Didn't crumble under pressure.
No crumbling.
Very clean. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get excited, but...
Can I just say to you, and I'm glad you picked that up, that's because that was my moment of the match, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was my moment of that. What Sam Draper did in that moment was phenomenal.
Oh, I don't know about phenomenal.
Phenomenal. He was 3 players back, out of position, but still managed to contest the ball. He split that pack open, allowing it to come to ground, and Kako did the rest. Great job, Sammy. That's what we want to see.
Yes. What else? I'm going to bring up Peter Wright. He only played in the first quarter.
Did he?
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
I don't think so.
Peter who? It seems like he's been given every opportunity, but maybe won't make it. Is that your gut feel?
It is.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm glad we're going to go no more to and fro. We'll just leave it.
You told me to keep it short. Is that too short?
Okay, a little.
No, Peter Wright is...
Discuss.
Look, I'm going to be honest. Peter Wright had a fantastic... He had a season where he kicked 50-plus goals, won the Crichton medal. Brilliant job. Well done, Pete. Fronted up to training the next year, did his arm or his shoulder, dislocated his shoulder, missed most of the season. Then we've talked about this many times. The following season against the Swans, he got suspended unfairly 4 weeks. He's not been the same player since that breakout season. But if we go back to what type of player he was at the Gold Coast Suns, he didn't get a senior game in his last year at the Gold Coast Suns. At the Gold Coast Suns under Stewie Dew. So I'm going to go with the fact that 8 of his 9 seasons have been substandard.
Yeah,
one was fantastic.
So that was an outlier.
So I think you got to look at that and play the percentage to say that Peter Wright, he's a useful depth player for us.
Yeah,
but the future was out there for everyone to see last night.
Seemed to be.
Yep, and he wasn't in it.
It seemed to be. It was just a good, lively, troublesome forward line, which is what you want to have, and we haven't had that for a while. It's been highly predictable, let's face it.
Yeah, and Jake Gresham came into the game in the last quarter too. He was a bit quiet earlier in the game, but when he came into the game, you could just see him and Kako, those two smaller guys, running around at the feet of Caddy and Langford, Edwards if he plays.
Yes,
and I think we've got, and there's in the background Owen Davey, who had a very good pre-season until he was injured.
Yep.
And Jai Menzies. So there's a bit of depth now in those small forwards. But those two boys are now back in the queue.
Yeah.
I mean, Kako is absolutely starting in round 0 or whatever they call opening round. and I doubt that he will ever be out of that first 23.
Yeah.
23.
Let's talk defence because
it's a good one.
That Ridley was looking. He was looking all right.
Brilliant.
They were looking all right last night. I think he's over whatever injury. Because I don't think was it a quad, the most recent injury,
Yeah,
not
I think
the
he had
hamstring.
I think it was the hammy, wasn't it? The hammy.
I think someone had commented that it was a quad.
Thigh bone's connected to his knee bone.
Yeah.
He's the prince of defenders.
He is.
He's the prince of defenders, and inarguably one of the top 3 players in our football team. How good is it when Ben Mackay does a job, Zach Reed does a job,
Yes.
And Lewis Hayes did a job, meaning that Ridley becomes that kind of loose guy, that free intercepting player, which he's so good at. If we can keep that form going throughout the year, our prediction of a premiership is becoming more and more realistic.
While we're down there, let's talk about Dylan Shield taking over the role that I think Nick Martin was serving for the last year or two, and we were just never really totally sold on it because of what we were then missing by Nick Martin going forward, which we also saw the benefits of that.
He kicked 2 goals in the first quarter.
Oh, come on.
Nick Martin was also fantastic.
Yeah.
Dylan Shield, I think he had 28 possessions. Some of it was a bit rough and ready, but generally speaking, he was very effective.
Very.
So, in my mind, I've read a lot of forums, Essendon, comments saying, why are we not giving the kids that opportunity? Well, no. If Dylan Shield's the best player for that role and is showing the form, he plays. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
But why should he be on the list otherwise? So, I think Shield has shown that he can do that role, and I think defensively he was, he was a little loose at times, but he will learn that. This is his first proper match playing in defence.
So given all that,
can I just add one other guy too? By the way, Jackson Pryor.
Yes.
Can you tell me about him?
No, you tell me about because I
want you to tell me.
I know nothing. All right,
I thought he was very good.
Yes, but tell me what's his story?
Well, he's the son of an ex-Essendon player,
Michael Pryor.
Michael Pryor. Is it Michael? Yeah, Michael Pryor. I think originally from Western Australia, or am I getting anyway, it doesn't matter where he's from.
They're all from WA.
Well, they
breed like mushrooms.
But came from Brisbane. He couldn't quite make it into the Brisbane. It's not always a good sign when you can't quite make it into the premiership team.
Is it?
Yeah, it's hard to get into a team that wins the premiership.
Right, okay.
That means he's probably about, perfect for any other side. So, I thought he did that Jake Kelly role.
Yeah, he did.
And I thought he did it very well. So he's one to look out for. I'm actually pleased because we need to have a McGrath, who was also fantastic.
He was very good.
And
very
Pryor, the sort of smaller, medium-sized defenders.
Yes, engine room at the back.
McGrath played a bit in the middle too in the practice game and was very effective.
Yes.
Took some centre bounces, so he was good.
Yeah,
we were missing Redmond, I think, from the team.
I think has he got a bit of an injury?
Not sure. Parrish, of course, wasn't playing.
Yeah.
So there's a few guys to come into that side. And,
there is.
And I think defensively, it was just so great to see Lewis Hayes, Zach Reed, these guys show a bit, and, of course, Ridley and Mackay, who we've talked about.
Yeah, you've been a fan of Lewis Hayes for a while.
I think he's really promising.
Yeah. I think
whilst we're on the subject of defenders, because I don't want to keep this news till the end of the video.
Sure.
We have really exciting news to share with you guys. One of Essendon's great defenders of recent times will be joining us in the studio next week as we kick off the season. You might know him as the bustling Western Australian, number 26,
right.
Cale Hooker, the great champion, Essendon champion, 200 game player, All-Australian, will be joining us in the studio. I'm absolutely excited about that. I think we're going to have a fantastic time with Cale.
Very excited. Let's hope he doesn't get cold feet.
Why would he get cold feet?
Well,
What you mean he might actually watch one of these episodes?
Yeah, exactly. And go, what the hell did I just agree to?
I thought it was current affair.
I know, but it is very exciting. And that hopefully...
So Cale will be here next week.
Coming up
Keep
next
an eye
week.
for that. We'll put some announcements out.
Indeed.
But they're lining up to come on,
I know that.
Right?
I know.
There's a queue out there now. Everyone wants to be a part of this show.
It's just about finding a slot for everyone.
I just want to make one final comment about the practice match.
Right.
Just in terms of the game plan, there was quite a bit of possession. I think we had a lot of handballs early in the game.
We had, I think it was over 400 possession.
But there was a noticeable difference in the pace at which we were moving the ball. Mm-hmm. So even though we were, in some cases, over-possessing it, and occasionally we kind of fluffed our lines a bit and, Geelong took the ball down and kicked a goal. But I think generally our transition across the field was better than I've ever seen it. So there's some really positive signs about the game plan, and I'm just really pleased that we've had some influence over the coaching in terms of how they should perform this year.
Yes, finally, which is the whole reason why we started this caper.
Correct.
And would you say on that point that you just made, is that should we give credit to the strength and conditioning team out at the hangar?
No, they haven't. They've got a long way to go before we get there. But
right, okay.
you know, when they can. Well, actually, I've got to tell you, Harrison Jones looks like he's bulked up a bit, so he certainly needed to.
Yeah, okay.
And again, I thought he was actually very good. Young Harry Jones. So
I agree.
So much positivity around that game. If you're not excited, if the lid's not off, then go.
Well, I wanted to sort of wrap up with this.
Are we wrapping up?
Well, we don't have to. But last week in, or was it the week? No, it was. It was the week before. It was the week before, and I think that's what inspired us to do our last episode where we talked about the path to the promised land.
Yes.
But we each gave our prediction, and you said that you agreed with the pundits, and it was going to be a bottom 4 finish for the Dons, and I said, they will make the 8. Do you wish to? I'm going to give you an opportunity to revise it, should you feel the need to.
So, assuming we don't win the premiership.
Yes, assuming we don't win the premiership. What's your
have you seen anything to change your views on where we will finish?
No, I still know what the pundits are saying, but I still feel like it will be finals for us this year. I know what it looks like on paper, but and I know you've had people like Tim Watson come out since our last video, and he said, "Well, I've been talking to some other ex-Bomber players, and we feel like that Essendon only has one A-grade player."
He works for SCN now, doesn't he?
Yes, he's in the opinion business. Yes.
Who would that be, I wonder? Yeah, good on you, Tim. Do you want to take that poster down while we're at it?
Timmy.
Yeah.
Et tu, Timmy.
Right, well...
But he may be right, though.
I don't think... My opinion hasn't changed, is the honest answer. I still think we're a work in progress, but a lot of promising signs. If you remember back to the episode a couple of weeks ago, which we took a little flack on because we were... to some people being negative.
Yeah.
But we were, because I always said, I think we'll finish bottom 4, but that's not what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is signs of improvement. And if we can, finish bottom 4, but with, some clear signs that this team is developing and they're a young team, they're a very young team, I'll be happy. Because we're not winning the flag this year. Honestly, I know we said we could, and mathematically we can, but I still think we're a work in progress. So, no, I haven't changed my views, to be fair.
Okay.
But I'm excited about what I see.
Did you participate in the Bombathon?
What's that?
Well, they were selling special
this is not our marketing
mini memberships and stuff. Yeah, so they wheeled out Brad Scott, and I heard an interview with Gerard Whateley on SEN, and it was interesting because he ran with this line that we've heard before, and it's interesting that he keeps running with it, and I don't know why, because it's that line where he says, yes, absolutely we've improved, but so has everybody else, which means the net improvement is nil, or maybe even negative.
So how do you explain teams that go down?
So
if he's saying everyone's improved,
you know how sometimes we think we're on a good line and we keep running with it?
Yeah.
Do you think...
Nah.
Do you think does he need to review that, or?
Well, I know he watches, so
right. Oh, okay.
I think we've made the point.
All right. Okay. Fair enough.
Look. Okay. So
because it just it takes the wind out of your sails a little bit when it's like, yeah, we've improved, but so's everyone else.
Yeah, but they don't. I mean, there's always teams to go backwards. So, it's snakes and ladders. What does it call it? Snakes and whatever, ladders. Yeah,
ladders.
Some teams go up, some go down. That happens.
All right.
So not everyone improves is the answer.
All right.
But I think we will. How that translates to points on the board, time will tell. But I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think Geelong's much chop. Okay, we beat them, but I don't think a lot of people saying they're up there in the favourites. I don't think.
Okay, so that's why you think we need to temper things at this early stage.
Yeah.
All right, okay, fair enough.
Positive signs, but
yes. All right, okay, all right.
So next week, don't forget Cale Hooker. He'll be here, and please, if you've got any questions you'd like us to ask Cale, drop them in the comments.
Please do.
And
put your questions down.
Keep them clean, guys. Nothing silly.
Yes.
Cale will not be talking about anything other than his spectacular football career.
Absolutely.
And maybe his family's wine growing business back in WA. So,
Really?
yep, fantastic
Jeez.
wines.
He's got-
Hooker wines. Have one bottle and you're hooked. All right.
Okay.
Thanks
All right.
for watching.
All right. That'll do.
See you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye for now. Bye.